Berserk is one of the greatest manga of all time, and at the heart of it is one of the most polarizing, hated friend turned villain characters ever, Griffith. Known by many as one of the most evil characters in fiction, a symbol of pure evil and moral corruption.
What do you mean by that?
For others, Griffith is a tragic figure, a person pushed beyond human limits by the cruel world he was born into, who fell victim to the temptations of true evil. My opinion, as the title suggests, is that Griffith isn't evil. And while that might sound crazy, especially when considering the atrocities he committed, hear me out, there is a reason why Griffith is one of the greatest villains ever. And it's not because he's simple. Let's break it down. To truly understand why Griffith isn't just evil, we need to look at his upbringing. Much like Guts, Griffith was abandoned as a child, left to grow up alone on the streets of a war-torn kingdom. We don't get a lot of specifics about Griffith's day-to-day life, but we can infer that it was a brutal existence. In a world like the one in Berserk, survival means fighting for your life every day. Griffith likely had to fight for food, shelter, and safety with no one to protect him. This harsh, lonely upbringing would form the foundation of who Griffith would become. Witnessing violence, betrayal, and suffering from such a young age likely hardened his mind and shaped his worldview. It reinforced the belief that the weak and powerless are discarded and only the strong, those who fight for survival, can rise above. In these early years of struggle that Griffith developed an intense drive to escape his circumstances. He would do whatever it takes to achieve his dream. As long as he was strong and had control, he believed he would never be vulnerable again. The dream to become king. From the very beginning, Griffith harbored a single, unyielding dream to become king. Not just to escape his miserable life, not just to live in comfort. Griffith wanted to reshape the world. He wanted to become someone who could shape his own destiny, someone who could rise above the limitations of his birth. This dream drove him relentlessly and would influence every action he took, every decision he made.
You weird, buddy.
This ambition was both his strength and his flaw. It allowed him to rally the band of the Hawk, inspiring loyalty in the people who saw him as a leader, who could achieve the impossible. His charisma, his ability to inspire others, was what allowed him to grow the band of the Hawk from a small group of outcasts into a powerful military force. But this isn't just another example of Griffith being an evil manipulator. It's an example of Griffith using his natural abilities to survive and rise above his circumstances. In a world where survival often meant relying on the strengths of others, Griffith learned early on that he needed followers, relationships, loyalty. These were all tools he could use to shape his destiny. He understood that in a world as harsh as his, survival and success meant building alliances, even if those alliances were at times emotionally detached. Griffith didn't see himself as manipulating people for his own gain. He saw it as a necessary means to achieve the one thing that mattered, his dream of becoming king. Survival mechanism: sacrificing emotion. One of the most telling aspects of Griffith is his ability to compartmentalize his emotions. His relationships, even with his closest companions like Guts and Casca, were often strained because of his single-minded focus on his dream. He could form close bonds, but when it came down to it, those relationships were often secondary to his greater goal, his ascension to power. In Griffith's mind, everything, including the people he cared about, was just another piece in his puzzle, another pawn in his destiny. This is why Griffith's eventual betrayal of the Band of the Hawk during the Eclipse is not as simple as him being evil. This act of sacrifice wasn't just a matter of, oh, I want power, so I'll kill everyone.
Whoa, calm down, Jamal. Don't pull out the 9.
It was the culmination of everything Griffith had learned about survival, about the cost of achieving greatness. Griffith had been raised in an environment of betrayal and harshness, but beyond even that, it comes down to the simple human drive, to live, to achieve his dream after being pushed to the brink. People often sit from their comfortable positions, criticizing Griffith's actions as evil, but they often fail to grasp the mental state he was in at the time. After a year of brutal torture and having his body and mind shattered, imagine being offered everything you ever dreamed of: godhood, the promise of power, freedom, and the realization of his ambition after everything he endured. Griffith's sacrifice of the Band of the Hawk and the Eclipse wasn't just about betrayal for personal gain. It was the result of being pushed beyond human limits, a culmination of suffering and desire for transcendence. He was offered the ultimate escape, a chance to become something more than human, to escape the cycle of suffering that shaped his life. Griffith, Femto, and the Eclipse. If you noticed, I've only referred to Griffith's most unforgivable act, the sacrifice of the Band of the Hawk, and not what he did to Casca. And that's because it's often where people draw the line when they say, Griffith can't be forgiven. But in my opinion, it's really simple. Griffith and Femto aren't the same person. Griffith's actions in the Eclipse led to the horrors committed by Femto, but Femto is a distinct being, an entity that no longer carries the empathy or humanity Griffith once had. In simple terms, Femto is the evil version of Griffith, one who lacks remorse. So while Griffith's ambition and decisions paved the way for Femto's cruelty, Griffith himself didn't directly commit those atrocities. Therefore, while he played a role in them, he isn't entirely to blame for the horrors that followed. Griffith's humanity and tragic choice. Griffith's decision to betray the Band of the Hawk wasn't simply an evil act. It was the tragic consequence of a person who had been driven to the brink by the world's cruelty and his relentless ambition. In my opinion, Griffith and Guts are two sides of the same coin. One man went through horrible things and decided to take the easy way out, sacrificing his friends to achieve his dream of godhood. The other, Guts, endured the same horrors but refused to give up, to give in to despair or the temptation of taking the easy way out. A lot of people think they'd be like Guts in that situation, but I think a lot of people are lying to themselves. Most people, when faced with the intense physical and mental toll Griffith endured, would have made the same choice. They'd probably sacrifice everything for the ultimate power, and freedom too. I could also delve into the idea that Griffith was forced to do it by destiny, a topic of much debate. But I think while his life was definitely influenced by forces beyond his control, particularly the God Hand, Griffith still made the decisions that led to his downfall. In my view, Griffith is both a victim of destiny and a willing participant. Griffith isn't evil in the way most people think. He's a victim of circumstance, someone shaped by a brutal world, someone who made his choices in a desperate attempt to transcend the suffering that defined his existence. His betrayal and transformation into Femto were the result of being pushed to the edge and choosing the ultimate escape to achieve his dream. So while Griffith's actions are undeniably monstrous, it's essential to understand that he wasn't just a villain for the sake of being evil. He was a person in his desperation sacrificed everything for his dream of greatness, a choice that even in our world, and especially in the harsh world of Berserk, many would have made the same, if faced with the same circumstances. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about the whole Griffith and Femto argument. Do you see him as a tragic figure who was pushed too far, or do you think his actions were just unforgivable? Either way, this was just a random guy's opinion.